All right, everybody, welcome to the show. This is the Creative Finance Collective. Currently, we have myself and Alan Seshker. Alan, how you doing?
Doing well, doing well. How are you?
Good. I know Sean's going to join us here shortly, but good to see you. What's going on in Texas?
Oh, cooling off. I think we're, 98 degrees or so these days.
Good stuff. If you're just now joining us, this is the Creative Finance Collective. So we're taking questions about creative finance or real estate matters that you have. Make sure to post those in the chat. We'll get to them as you post it. We're only going to be on as long as we get questions. So it's important for you guys to engage with us, and we appreciate it. Alan, I was hoping to bring this up when Sean was on. He can join us in a little bit. We had a show and we were talking with a real estate broker earlier today, and I know this isn't directly related to creative finance, but we were talking about the rise of short sales.
Oh,
And of course, that's kind of feels like a relic of the past, back from the last big recession. But he was talking about in certain markets where they're starting to see more of the short sales. Of course, a lot of those were folks that, maybe bought in 2022, higher interest rates and whatever else. He mentioned he's a Phoenix guy, but they work all over the country, and they mentioned Texas as being a place where they're getting some, and Florida also. Um, have you? What's been the sense of the market out? I guess more like the conventional market out there. Have you been hearing of folks seeing the short sale stuff?
so I guess I need to say yes. However, we're converting those short sales over to uh, non qualified assumptions because they still work for that. So they're not so far underwater, they don't work for that. So I've seen a pickup of that, but not the actual short sales yet. But I don't see how they're not going to come. People who bought in that big huge overvalued market should be getting caught.
Yeah. Well, it seemed like the areas, of course, they're seeing it most significantly, it sounds like, are, and this is, I don't think this is uncommon, but the areas that are not right in the heart of the city, or the most popular places. So the stuff a little bit out there, where people paid, high prices, and, at probably high borrowing costs, because we haven't really had great interest rates for a few years now. So I think it's a lot of the 2020, well, it's a lot of the buyers who, um I guess it depends on the market. I guess you could have a pretty good interest rate if you bought in 21, but the market's declined
Yeah,
in that time. But in the 2022, as they really started to raise interest rates, and prices prices hadn't come down all that much. I don't know that anybody thinks that in main areas they've come down much at all, but definitely going to be a few people trapped. And when you talk about inflation, um, when you factor in the whole inflation equation and how much it costs just to live, it kind of feels like that it's just a matter of time that you'll see an increase. Sean just joined us. Sean, I was filling Alan in with our discussion earlier about short sales and asking him whether he's seen kind of an increase in the
Yeah.
uh, short sale market in Texas. But
but I think the folks that are going to get caught are the ones that have to sell, and with this very very slow market, they only have a certain amount of room. They can start lowering their ask price before they're underwater on those 2019 2020 and I guess 21 purchases.
mhm. And a lot of them wouldn't necessarily. You'd think investors like in the sub two space bring in the creative finance. I'm not sure a lot of them come in and sweep those up, unless you're short selling, um, from a few years back where your interest rate is really good. But if you're short selling, if you got the property with when rates are higher, 5, 6,
Yeah,
7%, you're not going to get a lot of investor interest in that, I don't think.
No, no, it's that very small area, 19 to 20 purchases. So we had one out in Lakeway. Uh, Owners were laid off. Had a job opportunity up there in New York, and had to sell. And so with commissions, closing costs, et cetera, they were above what was owed. So agents initially were going to take a hit and start reducing their rates or go short sale, but a investor came over and said, I'll buy it at your ask price for sure. And then went and immediately sold it seller finance on the MLS, and sold it for uh, I think about 100,000 more than what he bought it for. So it's occurring, but I have not seen the short sales yet. And I guess I should put a proviso in there. In theory, my team is supposed to say we don't do short sales, because we had our fill back in 2008, 9, 10. They're difficult files, headaches, and such. The processes may be smoother now if the banks remember back then,
Well,
but they were headaches.
yeah, I don't know. I asked our guest about that. I said, for years during the short sale craze, it started with nobody's ever done this before. What does this even look like? So between the agents, the lawyers, and the banks, they figured out a process. And by the end of it, it got pretty good. But then the market shifted, and everybody moved on with their lives. And then we had up only for like 10 years, and everybody forgot about it. And I said, did the banks still remember how to do these things? And I think his statement was, no, they're needing to learn how to ride their bikes again. That the squad of people on both sides of it, agents. I don't think there's a lot of agents in the space unless you've been an agent for many years. A lot of the newer agents don't have any idea what this is. So he's spending a lot of time educating agents and educating banks as they kind of start working through that process again.
Well, we'll try to stay away from them, but just like everyone else, if the market slows and slows, then those become how we eat. So may pick it back up.
Yeah. Did you get back in the day when you were dealing with them? Did you guys help process those in Texas, or were you the guy? Did you guys just offer legal advice for agents that were trying to close the deals and people who were getting ready to do the short sale process?
So we didn't assist with the short sale negotiations. We assisted with teaching people how to do it, what they're going to need, what they need to send up, and things like that. But they did it all themselves, and then we closed them, and then started having fun with the folks that were trying to do the simultaneous close, and then the Bank of America paragraph 10, where they had a restriction on the resale for a period of time. I forget how long they said. I think 6 months or something like that. So we swam in the pool, but we weren't filling the pool up and draining it and such.
Yeah. I remember back in the day, I remember thinking, well, this is, given what is happening, I think at the time I expected to see a lot more loan modifications being done. I don't think that was the case. I mean, some got done, but short sales definitely became I think the kind of the strategy of the day back then.
Yeah. Yeah. We saw a lot of loan modifications in regard to the forbearance from COVID time. But I mean, I would think short sales, if things keep going the way they're going, have to pick up.
Yeah, one would think, given how nothing's getting cheaper. I mean, they talk about inflation going down. That's just the rate of inflation increasing. It's not like the prices are going backwards, right? And our guest earlier today made the point of the average car payment's $800 a month. Okay, so that's assuming you just got one car. Then there's two cars, and then they're paying $3,500 for a month on a mortgage, and doesn't take a lot before they look at what it costs to go rent. and it
Yeah.
starts to make more sense. Starts to make more sense.
One,
What is it in Texas? Does the lender have deficiency rights that they have
they
to deal with in short sales?
they can go after that, and they don't usually. Obviously, there's also that phantom income. They send out that tax bill from
Yeah,
the dollars that they wrote off.
right.
But
Yeah,
one lender I know was saying that what he's seeing in the market and the reason for the slowdown on his side is his borrowers are wondering how they're going to buy groceries, and they're not wanting to go out there and buy a new house.
mhm,
Yeah.
So that matches with what you're saying.
yeah. All right, if you're just now joining us, this is the Creative Finance Collective. We've been talking about short sales, but we're here to answer questions about creative finance, creative financing. That market, I don't think, is really slowing down much. As long as borrowing costs are high, there's gonna be investors that are looking at doing that, so post your questions in the chat. We're happy to get them. You kinda gave me a face there, Alan, when I said the market hasn't slowed down much. Maybe it has. What has it been like in Texas?
Now the investor market's good, and that's the great majority of our work. So I think actually last week I hinted at it. Met with that owner of a title office out here, and he said, things are fantastically slow, and he's all conventional, all commercial residential, but heavy in the commercial. And he said he's slow as anything. We're we're still blowing and going with all the investor work, thank goodness. But eventually that's going to get hit also.
How do you think that's gonna get hit? Or what do you think is gonna be the tips that scale that impacts investors?
So we have a lot of fix and flip clients who got what I say caught in the middle. They've got their hard money loan. They're listing their house, trying to cut it down as low as they can. It's not getting down, and now they need to go out there and try to refi. Not able to refi, and a bunch of them are failing. As that continues, then if fix and flips aren't selling, then uh, assumption acquisition, seller finance wraps aren't going to be selling. Um, and like you said, you do need to move out of the city. Nothing's occurring in the city, and I'm talking about Austin specifically. So you have to go on the outskirts. But I just think that the investors are going to run out of steam personally.
Interesting.
What about you, Sean? Have you seen any slowdown in not really?
No, I mean, I think especially the subject to creative, there's not really a slowdown on that. Definitely a slowdown with wholesales and stuff.
Yeah.
But not on the creative yet.
Interesting. All right, guys, if you're watching and you have questions, post them.
So I've got a question, or
All
I
right.
guess actually a comment. The exciting conversation we had last week in regard to that contract for deed, that was fun and eye opening. Simultaneously, it caused me here in Texas, as you know, we can't do the lease purchase options. The restriction is if it's longer than 180 days, you have to start complying with the statute, and you can't comply with the statute. And so I realized, as opposed to these novation things, let's go out there and do our lease purchase option solution also. But then it also brought up I don't know if there was a change in the way underwriters look at it or what have you, but I've found some underwriters that allow us to hold property in a joint venture agreement. And so as opposed to doing the novation, coming in with a joint venture agreement between the parties and put the property in the joint venture agreement, a much more streamlined method than the novation. I think novation is inherently complex to the average seller. But a joint venture agreement, that's just a contract where we're going to agree to X, Y, and Z. So that seems, in my book, easier. So I think I'm going to launch a little joint venture agreement method for as a substitute for novations.
Yeah, so in that scenario, the investor would be able to execute documents on behalf of the joint venture and sell the property without the seller's cooperation, basically.
That's man, you hit the proverbial nail on the head every time, don't you? So that would be what I would couch in my joint venture agreement, just like a LLC or partnership, where it says person X is authorized signer, and I'm hoping the underwriter is going to respect that when we put it in there. We'll have to have a proviso that, hey, this is brand new. Underwriter may want seller to sign off on that, but once we get a couple under our belt, then we'll be able to say for sure, yeah, investor gets to control joint venture.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I've never even thought of doing it that way. Interesting. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it may be the go-to for me now. I've got to keep on mentally digesting this because I still haven't finished digesting the discussion from last week.
Are there any securities concerns doing it that way? Meaning you have the seller becoming essentially, putting in their capital, i.e. the property, into this joint venture, and then having, a silent ownership where they can't bind the joint venture. They're basically a passive
investor
partner. Yeah, or a limited partner per se, even though it's not a limited partnership, but basically they're a passive investor in the thing. Is that a concern at all?
So the way the underwriting counsel explained it to me as to the way they're looking at it and why they're going to accept joint ventures to hold property is they look at it as a limited partnership. And so the two parties are partners coming into it. They're looking at it as a partnership in their eyes.
So then is there a concern though with a seller coming in and basically pledging or giving their real estate to this, but then having no control over the outcome?
Yeah, you could still have a security in a limited partnership, right? I think.
Yeah, the limited partner would be the one who would sometimes, depending on how it was structured, be entitled
passive
to
investor.
Be a passive investor entitled to a prospectus.
So I can barely spell SEC. I'm going to have to defer.
We need to put out the bat signals to
Nick McGrew and
Nick McGrew, yeah,
and the Vincent brothers.
The Vincent brothers, yeah, we got to get them back on. They know all the securities issues.
Sounds like mafia connections. The Vincent brothers.
Yeah. Oh, that's
interesting. No, I don't know. It's it'd be great if it works. I hate to throw a wrench in there, but.
Well, I have a go-to guy. I'll ask him what he advises.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. All right, everybody. If you're just now joining us, this is the Creative Finance Collective. We're taking questions about creative financing. And just as I say that, we got a question, guys. Let's see. So a YouTube question. What about the opposite question mark? The seller did an owner finance. The buyer stopped paying, and it's been in litigation for 5 years. They haven't received payment in 5 years, and the seller wants to sell to us.
Oof. That's painful. We had a situation, same thing. It lasted for about 12 months, but outside of that one, I haven't seen anything. I don't know why something would last for 5 years in litigation on a seller finance. But the answer to the question is no, seller can't do anything.
Well, or maybe they can. You're stuck with a lawsuit or you're stuck with a foreclosure, but why don't you buy the note off of the seller?
Yeah. I've had people will take on a property that's having an eviction fight, and they regret it severely.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying to do it, but could you, knowing that you're about to go into a litigation proceeding, could you buy the note off the seller potentially? Maybe.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, I guess the question is, how good's the
For a
deal, right?
discount. Yeah, for a discount. If the seller's owed 400 and you buy it off of them, now you have to figure out what the equity is. So the seller had no money for a lawyer, and they aren't sophisticated. So, obviously do your due diligence, consult with an attorney in the state where the property is located, figure everything out, see what kind of, was it subject to, the seller sell it free and clear. What's the value of that note? And if you think the note's worth, let's just say 200,000, and you can get it for 50 to 100 because of the problems, I don't know. But that's where you have to kind of do a full blown due diligence analysis and consult with an attorney.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
But you can't buy the property. I mean, the seller's the lender. So you can't, it would be like Wells Fargo before they do a foreclosure, they sell, I think there's been banks that actually tried this before. They before they complete the foreclosure, they sell it to like the lender sells it to somebody, sells the property or whatever. You can't do that. Yeah. So you'd have to buy the note off the seller. Worth 90, they'd be willing to take 30. Talk to an attorney and do a full workup, do a full title search of the property, and talk with an attorney, see what all the risks are involved and where they're at in the lawsuit and whatever.
What's the litigation cost going to be?
Yeah.
The problem with that is there's just no way to know.
Right.
For every estimate, there's some that, come at or under, but then there's always the case that just blows all that out of the water because of who you're dealing with.
Right.
And sometimes the fact that you're dealing with somebody who isn't represented makes it worse.
Yeah.
Because they don't have, somebody who knows the law in their other ear telling them what they ought to think about everything else. And some of the stuff that a pro per files, you have to deal with it. Your lawyer's got to deal with it, and it's nutty stuff sometimes.
Bad attorneys and pro pers drive up the cost of litigation immensely. You would think you could just go in and boom, get it all taken care of and just crush them, but it makes it worse because a judge isn't going to let you just waltz on over them, and they're going to kind of give them opportunities, and then you're always having to basically respond to and correct their screw ups, and it really drives up the cost of litigation.
Yeah. I would try to partner with an attorney, say, hey, take this on contingency. We'll split everything 50-50.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
You'll get a very, very good analysis from an attorney that way.
Yeah. If you get an attorney that agrees to sign off on that and take it, then
they'll do the due diligence.
Yeah. And it's worth pursuing in that case. That's a smart idea.
That's funny. Texas. I wonder who.
South Texas.
Yeah.
What's South Texas?
Well, you're gonna have everything from Beaumont all the way over to past South Padre. The problem is there's areas in South Texas that you hire a South Texas attorney or you lose.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Yeah. Is that because you get hometowned if you get somebody out? Yeah.
Yep. If you represent someone in South Texas and you're not from there, your first step is to hire a South Texas attorney to assist you. and their assistance is the face.
Yeah. Yeah, good advice. Good advice. Well, that's interesting. All right, if you're just not joining us, we're taking creative finance questions. If you have them, make sure to post them in the chat. We'll get to them as best we can. Where, Sean? Tyler Epstein's not in South Texas, is he?
I don't know if he's in South Texas, but he is in Texas, but I don't know where.
He's a litigator.
I think outside of Dallas. I think he's outside of Dallas.
Okay. Does outside of Dallas count as South Texas? I don't know. Those small towns, they probably don't want a Dallas lawyer.
I think Dallas is one of the furthest north.
Oh, okay.
Of the big cities.
Oh.
Yeah, and no big city lawyer wants to step into the small towns.
Yeah, I think that's the same in all the states.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was out in a very small county out in East Texas, and there's not supposed to be any ex parte communications between the parties and the judge, right?
Right.
So we're sitting there, and there's a motion for summary judgment, and we're going to win the MSJ, and so we're in there, me and the other attorney and the judge. And so the judge goes, well, I'll tell you what, counsel, if you can just step out for a little bit, let me have a conversation with him and see what we can do. And you just go, okay, I guess I'll step out.
Yeah. Is a mediator or a judge?
We were in trial. We broke to go back in the chambers to have him talk with us about the MSJ.
You said all that you can is yes, Your Honor.
Yeah. What are you going to do? Say no? Oh, the fellow does say it's Rio Grande Valley. That's you need Rio Grande attorney.
Yeah. Don't know any of those.
No.
I'm sure they're a good one. I like the contingency fee idea though.
Yeah. That'll get you some due diligence.
Yeah. That's good. All right. If you're watching, you have questions, we'll take them. We're looking for creative finance stuff to address. Anything else going on? What else is give our listeners a few more minutes to post any other questions that they have. You guys run into anything else for the good of the order that's interesting?
No, just my novation does not contemplate putting dollars into the property for repair, remodel, what have you. It's not that type of vehicle. That's what they're mainly used for, especially outside of Texas. So I'm appreciative of the contract for deed and now this JV method. But that's been taking up my time a little bit, getting ready to construct those.
You seen any more? A few weeks ago, it seemed like you had seen a number of lenders call the loan due, trigger the due on sale clause. Has that calmed down? You see any more of that?
No, we're still seeing it.
Oh.
So I do that deed flip flop thing.
Okay.
And so on the flip, we're giving it back over to the borrower. On the flop, we're putting it back into a trust. And y'all helped a lot on the trust vehicle that we use. So we end up with a deed that says the deed is from the seller borrower over to the seller as trustee for the trust. And so that deed should cause a lender to say, oh, well, that's what they're doing. We're done. Let's move on, and not even ask us for anything else. So that's where we are now. We've probably had, 10 or 12 in the past year period versus 3 in the past, 15, 20 year period.
Interesting. All right. Well, we don't have any other questions, so I don't want to take any more of your time, Alan and Sean. Alan, I know you're a busy guy. We appreciate you taking the time. So with no more questions, we'll go ahead and call it. We got about 40 minutes, pretty good. Yeah, we'll call it and plan on trying to see you guys next week if you've got availability.
I appreciate y'all. Thanks for letting me on.
Sounds good.
No problem, man. We'll
All
talk
right,
to you
guys.
later.
We'll talk to you.
All
All
right.
right, we'll see you.